Mr. Eskobar, let me first thank you for all what you're doing here in Serbia.
Thank you.
And for the region. We are closely following your statements, and most recently you talked about the economic benefits for the whole region. What are the short-term and long-term possible economic benefits from regional integration here in Western Balkans? What are the main advantages that regional economic connectivity provides here?
Well, look, I'll start with a very easy one. I've always said that the Western Balkans are an area of tremendous economic opportunity. Yet the image of the Western Balkans, when you leave the region, is one of political turmoil, one of political problems. In fact, it's not the case. When you come here, you realize what a vibrant and incredible European region it is. You are part of the European family. You're not part of the formal structures, but you are very much a contributing part of Europe. So a normalization agreement, a peace agreement between Serbia and Kosovo would go a long way into convincing people, or at least helping them understand the true potential of this region.
You first came here in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. How do you see the changes between there and now?
Well, I'll start with, I actually came here in 2000 the first time, but I started in Bosnia-Herzegovina. I started in Banja Luka. And since then, what I've seen is all of the region transformed in a very positive way through construction, through investment, through greater penetration of the region by international companies, most of whom are staffed by local people. So what I've seen is that the European Union, the United States, and the world have discovered the Western Balkans, discovered the potential of the region as contributing economic members. Now, if you look at the history of the United States and of Europe, the people of the Western Balkans have helped build both sides. So I think that with a renewed emphasis on the economy, we can see people of the Western Balkans finally building the Western Balkans.
So you think we have some reason for being optimistic in the next 30 years, since our last 30 years were, plagued with crisis, sanctions, wars, and etc.
Yeah. Anybody who looks at the region can only conclude that you've gone in the right direction. So this will give you even more opportunities to integrate into the European Union. But if you look at the economy of the Western Balkans, 70% of it is dependent on the European market. Of what's left of the 30%, almost all of it is regional, with some parts being investment from the United States, China, Turkey, the Middle East. But the reality is almost all of your economy is regional and European. This helps you move faster in both directions.
Well, Serbian economy show itself as a tough cookie in the time of instability since the war in Ukraine broke out, and we received important messages and praise from the World Bank and IMF. What is your assessment of our economy?
I agree with that. I mean, I think it's a strong economy. It's a dynamic economy. It's one that's poised to be a leader in IT, shipping, transportation, renewable energy, and yet you could still do better. You could still do better by helping increase the supply chains, improve the supply chains in the region, which is another reason why I always say that the best solution is for all of the countries of the region to recognize each other and to be recognized by all of the European Union. So you do better through integration than you do individually. So this is another selling point.
What about the investors? How do they see the political situation in the region?
Well,
are they afraid still of investing here?
Well, I think part of it is that, they get more predictability when they know what your regulatory and legislative path is. So that path has to be harmonization with the big European market. So I'll give you an example. So during COVID, there were countries that when the vaccines were coming out, to do a trial and a licensing agreement with the European Union and get access to 400 million people was more of a priority than to come and do it individually in the countries of the Balkans, where the market is only is sometimes as small as 2 million. So by giving the world the confidence that you're moving to align your regulations and your legislation with the European market, and that the European market is increasingly open to you from their side, gives investors more confidence that they're making a good deal. So it is important that you continue the path to both integration and normalization with Kosovo.
This goes, of course, for the EU investors and Eastern investors. What about the US? How do you see the economic cooperation between the US and Serbia in the times to come?
Well, I can only see it as growing. Now, I have to be very clear that a lot of the American investment is coming through Europe. So as you align with Europe, you're going to see more American companies that are based in Europe increasingly expand their reach into the Western Balkans. So by doing the things that you need to enter the European Union, you're also improving the relationship with the United States economically.
Understood. Well, one problem we have here is the labor force, that is the lack of qualified workers in the region, not only in Serbia. How can the integration of the region help to create a solution for this challenge?
Yeah, well, most of the people who are leaving, most of the qualified people who are leaving because they have options. And so their options are greater in a bigger market. So by integrating into that market, you're creating opportunities for people to stay. But in fact, you're creating opportunities for people to return. So when this market starts to take off, and it is taking off, it's already growing. Serbia is growing, depending on the year and depending on the estimate, up to 7.5%. That's 5 times greater than Italy. You're going to start seeing people come back. So that is the ultimate goal of integration, is the economics, and it is the demographics.
Well, the prerequisite for all of this is, as we know, political stabilization.
That's right.
You spoke with President Vučić yesterday. Are you satisfied with what you heard? What are your expectations from the Ohrid meeting on 18th of March?
Well, in my discussions with Vučić, we always talk about the economy because the economy is going to determine the future. And the economy is going to determine the demographics of this country. If you have a strong economy, you're going to keep people here. If you don't, you're not. And if you have any challenges to your economy, including political instability, especially political instability, then you're going to have a challenge on both the economy and the demographics. So our expectation coming out of Ohrid is that the two sides recognize that they need to be fully engaged in the normalization process. And that process needs to have a common understanding of what's required. What is required of Kosovo and what is required of Serbia, and a timeline of when they're going to implement their sides.
Well, one of the points that was the point of disagreement was surely the Association of Serbian Municipalities. Is Kurti ready to accept this? And you told that it must happen in a way that is a win-win situation for both parties.
That's right.
How can this be done? How can it be a win-win? How can both sides be winners?
Okay, well, I'll give you one example. So, but let me start. This is not about Kurti. Kosovo has signed up to this agreement. So the government of Kosovo is legally obligated to implement it. It is an existing, outstanding international legal obligation. That's the way we see it. It appears in the Brussels Agreement. It appears in this agreement. It is in the conclusions of the European Council. It is in our policy. So it's going to happen. The question is, which government of Kosovo is going to implement it? So the sooner, the better. And in reality, what it does is it recognizes that the people who are in the Serb majority, the Serb minority in Kosovo, are citizens of both Serbia and Kosovo. They're entitled to participate, like any dual citizen, in the cultural, economic, political, and every other kind of life in Serbia, but yet entitled fully to the full protection of the institutions of Kosovo. So in the north in particular, what this association could do is not only open the door to greater civic engagement by Serbs in Kosovo, but also be the bridge between Serbia and Kosovo, and potentially between 3 or 4 or 5 or even 6 countries in an economic union. Whether it's Open Balkans, New Berlin Process, or Common Regional Market, they are strategically placed. So it can be a win for both sides by opening economic doors to both countries.
One last question. When the smoke clears, do you think Kurti will be the part of the one winning side formally? Is he going to be there?
I don't know. Look, that's a question.
Because you told us before that either he's going to be there and sign it, I mean, he'll be in power, or he won't. It will be somebody else.
Well, I'm not. Look, I'm not trying to make a comment about the internal politics, but the fact is, Kosovo is obligated to do the association. And so the question is how and who and what. So I don't mean to make it a challenge for Prime Minister Kurti. It's just the fact that that everyone is expecting and urging and promising to work with the government of Kosovo to implement the association. It's just a fact.